Lately, I've been hearing a lot of talk about how some employers cannot find employees. Some of the theories behind why these jobs are going without being filled are, I don't know, maybe a little short sighted. I think that a lot of people who are in politics or the news media, they don't quite know what it's like to be an average American. So, here are 5 reasons why I think employers are having trouble finding employees. These aren't in any specific order, they're just 5 random reasons. So, don't take it as like I'm saying that this first one is like the least important or the most, but these are all just reasons. So, let's get started. One reason employers are having trouble finding employees is because being a worker isn't great, and the pandemic exposed that fact. When a mysterious illness struck the world, many businesses wanted workers to carry on with business as usual, even if that meant that those workers might die. There were no safety nets for the low wage earners, so you either went to work and possibly risk getting sick and maybe dying, or your job just told you, we'll call you when we need you. And you may not have much to fall back on if you're only making $8-9 an hour. Most of the time, people don't think about this, how much jobs don't care about them, because they're caught up in the day to day. They go to work, and that's that. But when the pandemic struck, it was clear that if you had an issue with childcare, your health, making ends meet, anything like that, most employers simply didn't care. Now, of course, there were some employers who did their best to make sure their employees were safe or as safe as they could be while working through the pandemic. But let's be real. Some workers had no choice. They either were there, even if they had a pre-existing condition, or they had a child at home, they had to be at work, or they were fired. So, and after that happened, you could apply for unemployment, but it's not like that unemployment was going to be in your mailbox, like, immediately, or in your bank account if they do it online. I don't even know how they do it, but you didn't have anything immediately. This was like a shock to the system. It was one of those things where some people went to work one day, and that very day they were told that they did not have a job anymore, or they were laid off. Other people worked through the pandemic, and it was not fun. People were mean to them. It was clear that their health was not a priority to customers or employers. So they continued to work, but in their minds, they're thinking, I got to find a new career path after this pandemic dies down. I've seen this in my friends that were still working in the restaurant industry. I worked in restaurants for 18 years, and I still had several friends that were still in that industry. A lot of them have moved on to real estate or insurance sales because those are careers with low barriers to entry, and they offer significant pay if you do well in them. Others have started to freelance on Fiverr, or they open their own businesses, or they are comfortable living on income from various gig positions. Maybe they have a spouse who they can get insurance through, and they're just going to keep that going for a while. They like the flexibility that their other job didn't have, or maybe they just like the fact that, if you're working a gig employment or you're freelancing, you get to pick and choose when you work, what assignments you take. It's very freeing. So that's one reason. Another reason that employers are having trouble finding employees is because working from home is ideal for a significant portion of the population. Today, I read an article in the Salt Lake Tribune about how women of color are not that excited to go back to the office. Why, you may ask? Well, some of them are like, wow, I'm not hearing someone comment on my hair every day or saying, hey, can I touch your hair? Which is really strange, but happens a lot, by the way. Or, someone being offended by a decoration that may come from your culture because they don't think it's American and things like that. So, I mean, for some people, working from home is great. I absolutely love it. If you have a remote job, you can work from anywhere that you have an internet connection. So, for example, when I go on vacation, if I still have to work, I just wake up early, complete my work, and then go on about my vacation after that. So, being able to work from a beach in Maui or your living room or a hotel room in Vegas, I mean, it's hard to beat that. Or say, for example, something more practical. What if you have a parent that lives across the country and they get sick? You don't have to say, I need to take all this time off and go, which some jobs may even deny. So, I mean, there's this flexibility that these remote positions provide that some jobs just can't offer or won't offer. So, and it's ironic because a lot of these workers were forced into this position where they had to work from home and they thought they'd hate it. But then they experienced a type of freedom, a level of comfort that they didn't realize was available. I took my first remote position back in 2012, and I found out that working from home was wonderful for both my mental and physical health. I was able to create my own work environment. So, for example, if my coworkers were gossiping in a group chat, I just muted the chat. But when I worked in a physical workplace, I could be there having this serene moment where I'm journaling on my break, or I'm just having my lunch trying to relax, and people will come in and they would, complain about the job. And it was a break room, so I couldn't really get away. And I didn't realize how important that was until it was to the point where I was like, wow, this is really great. I'm able to prepare every breakfast, every lunch that I eat. I take a walk on my lunch break, and then I come back and I sit on my couch and I continue to work. Now, I did work more. I work from home now too, and I work more because I work from home, but it's different. I know I get more done because I don't have those types of interruptions where a coworker wants to complain to me about whatever is going on or gossiping. I'll give you an example from when I worked at a school, and I would always show up at least an hour and a half early because as a teacher, you have all this work that you have to do, but there's not time to do it because you're teaching. So my goal was to show up early in the morning, get all the work done, and then not have to work on the weekends and in the evenings. Well, unfortunately, there were other teachers that would come in, and they would actually come to I didn't have my own classroom, unfortunately. I shared a classroom, and other teachers would come in and they would want to talk and talk and talk and talk. And I wasn't able to get my work done. And it was so frustrating, so frustrating. So, and even if I said, hey, I got to get this done, they would quiet down for a little while, but then pick it back up. And it was so infuriating because I had no control over it. It wasn't my classroom. I couldn't just say, get out of here. So, things like that don't happen when you're at home. I mean, obviously you might have some distractions from your spouse or children or something like that, but you have more control over it at home. So that is another reason why certain employers are going to have a tough time finding employees, like food service, things like that. I know that they are the number one industry that, well, not food services, but restaurant hospitality services, number one industry to experience this deficit in workers. And part of that, I think, is because they can't provide the remote positions, and they're positions that generally don't pay that well. And you have to deal with the public, which I have a friend who's a chef, and he says the people that come in, they're so mean and rude because, when they first opened up, they had limited capacity. So people were coming in and they just it was so pressing and urgent that they have this meal at a fine dining restaurant. So it's not like these people are starving and, they have to eat now or something. It's just that they felt entitled. They felt like it should have been quicker. They should have been able to sit wherever they wanted, things like that. So of course you're going to have trouble finding employees. Who wants to deal with that? Another reason that I think a lot of people are not considering when it comes to employees not wanting to take certain jobs, remote work provides a sense of safety. I mean, I guess because I worked in a school, it was always front and center that we might get attacked. So we had all these active shooter trainings and things like that. And it's always in the back of your mind. And you're like, oh my gosh. And I mean, I live in Utah. So Utah's a place where, let's just say, you can carry equipment to defend yourself if, something like that happens. But you start to think, you're like, am I going to have to, hurt one of my students if they attack, or I got to make a choice between hurting one student, saving the other students. And, I don't want to be in that position. Or maybe I'm just sitting there working and someone is mad and they come up and they attack everybody. So with the uptick in violence across the United States, I mean, it's something that I'm really glad I don't have to worry about because I don't go out of the house to work and I don't do any co-working. So my days are spent sitting at home or sitting on a breezeway, checking out the mountain views while I work. It's just really calming. You just really can't beat it. One more reason employers might have trouble finding employees. Well, a life-changing event happened and it caused workers to reevaluate everything. Several years ago, I had a tragic life-changing event that made me rethink my entire life. I decided in the spur of the moment, right after it happened, I decided I'm going to quit my job and I am never going back to teaching. And I did that. So that was at the end of 2018 and it was fantastic. It totally changed the trajectory of my life. I started to pursue my dream of being a writer, and I am so much happier. Life is so much better. So it was like I got a wake-up call. Life is too short. Stop it. You're spending your entire life, you're giving your life to this job. It's low paying, it's stressful, it's not going to get you anywhere. So I quit, and I think that that's happened to a lot of workers. They realize that their jobs they're not fulfilling, they're stressful, and they're low paying. So why not throw your hat into the ring and see what else you can find? So, I mean, that just makes sense to me. But I don't hear a lot about that. I mean, I'm starting to hear some about it, but most of the coverage is about, they're on unemployment and they love it. And they got extra unemployment, so that's why they're not working. But I don't know that that's true for the majority of people. I think it's true for some, yes. But I think others have just decided, I'm going to live on less. Maybe I even take a job that makes less if it has a better work-life balance. So it's just something to think about. And the final reason people may not be flocking to certain jobs might be a misleading scenario. What if we are just seeing increased demand? What if people are doing more than they did before the pandemic? So think about it. People were in their houses. They were not happy about it. They wanted to go out. They wanted to see friends. They wanted to see family. They wanted to travel. So as soon as that becomes widely available, everybody's going to do it. Things are going to sell out. Places are going to fill up. And that means there's more demand for services than there was before the pandemic. That could be a major factor in why we're seeing a shortage of workers. In addition to that, just because your favorite restaurant opened up doesn't mean that everyone who would potentially be working there is able to even work at the time. They might not have childcare. They might have an elderly parent that they're taking care of. They might have a pre-existing condition that makes them leery to want to work in that type of job. So I think the biggest problem is that we just have a lot of people who don't know what it's like to just be an average everyday person. And so I just thought, hey, I have like 26 years of being a worker. I have that much experience under my belt, so I can talk about this. And I just think that we need to think about some, reasons outside of the box why employers can't find workers. Of course, these are not the only reasons, but these are 5 that the media and politicians might not have been considering when they started to talk about this issue. I am starting to see it more, so I'm happy. I'm happy about that. But if you're not in that predicament, or if you haven't been in the predicament where you might have to work one of these low-paying jobs, you might not know how the mindset goes. And so it's like I said, I worked in a restaurant for 18 years, and I was a teacher. Yeah, I'm all about the low wage. I know how it goes. So that's all for me. I will see you next time. Bye.